Get out the insurance cards, get out the copays. The office is open, my friends. Brought to you by drroto.com.
Playing from the back, time-tested strategy in international soccer, and now your one-stop shop for all things World Cup. Going 4 deep today. We got the lads all with us, but we'll start off with the skipper of our squad, Mr. Kerry McAllister, at Text Essentialist on Twitter. Kerry, we are a couple of days out. How you feeling?
Man, I'm ready for this tournament to start. Yeah, we're coming up on it. It's going to be a fun one, I think. These 2 groups we're getting into today, I think, are going to make for pretty interesting discussion. So, Jay, Mike, what's going on, guys?
Kerry.
Hey! Don't cut in front of me, Jay. All right.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead. He did say Jay and then Mike, but go ahead, Mike. You do the honors.
Well, I want to do the introduction for you, my guy.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
I'm doing good. I'm just in college basketball mode, but I'm ready to talk some soccer. So, my guy Jay here is going to provide us with some great insight. How are you tonight, Jay?
Hey, I'm good. Ready to do this. Yeah. Right around the corner here. I don't think any more workers are going to pass away building stadiums between the time that the tournament starts and now. So, I mean, I'm not save your hate mail, but
there's always a chance.
Hey, and also those tent cities, man, with the painted on door.
Oh,
I mean,
so
that just makes me just want to. Oh yeah, I can't wait. I just hope Twitter makes it through the World Cup so we can see everything that goes on in those tent cities, because that, to me alone, should keep that app open. But somebody will
that
find
might be
a way
worth
to
the
mess that up.
$8 a month to just stay on the app just
Exactly.
to get that kind of content.
Exactly.
Elon, if you're listening, all 4 of us will each send you $8 if you can keep Twitter running through the end of the World Cup.
Yes, let's do it.
Your Bed Bath & Beyond coupons for $8. It won't be cash, but it'll it's just as good.
Cole's
as
cash.
It'll be fine.
It's like an IOU. Yeah, Cole's cash. Yeah.
Yeah. That's
all
good.
So we've talked about, we are a couple of days out from the start of the ceremonies for the FIFA World Cup in Qatar. Thus far, we have covered groups A through F, and tonight we're breaking down the last 2 groups that we haven't touched yet. That is G and H. So we will start right there with Group G. Right up top, Brazil headlines this group, #1 FIFA World Ranking, best World Cup finish. I mean, they are a 5-time champion, right? Straining from the 50s into 2002, their most recent dub, and they have the shortest odds. Are currently the favorite heading in to this year's games, plus 350 to win it all. Remaining teams in the group, Switzerland, they carry the 15th ranking according to FIFA. They have quarterfinal appearances under their belt as their deepest runs, but it's been a minute. 34, 38, and 54 since the last time that they made as deep that run. Currently sitting at plus 8,000 odds to win the whole thing. Serbia, the 21st ranked team according to FIFA, came in 4th place 2 times, back in 30 and back in 62. Also carrying plus 8,000 odds. It's tied for 13th shortest in the tournament. And rounding us out, Cameroon, ranked 43 according to FIFA. They have a quarterfinals bid as their deepest run back in 1990. Currently carrying plus 25,000 odds. So pretty top heavy. Anytime that you're going to have the #1 overall team according to FIFA rankings in your group. But let's dive in here to Group G.
Yeah, let's dive in. I think that Group G is going to be a little more interesting than most would think. Starting with Switzerland and Serbia, obviously you have Brazil here, and I think Cameroon could surprise. But Kerry, let's start with you. So we got Brazil up top here, right? FIFA ranked #1, 5-time champs. I mean, does this team have enough to do it? Seems like they've let us down a few times here recently.
Yeah, it's I do think they have enough. I think they definitely have enough offensive firepower. I mean, they're stacked. I think they have 2 world-class goalkeepers that they can call upon. I think if anything, their defense could be the weak point. It's not that they don't have good players, but they're getting up there in age. You have guys like Thiago Silva who are, it's 39 years old. But I mean, he's still playing well. I mean, it's still Brazil. I think they're going to be in this group. They're to play pretty comfortably here. I don't think they're going to have any issues. But I think what's interesting with Brazil is looking at the bracket, and if they win this group, it could almost be a detriment to them because the way that the bracket shakes out, we're going to get to Group H, but you could end up playing Uruguay or Portugal in the first knockout game. That's not going to be easy. You're also looking at potentially a team like Spain and also Argentina on that side of the bracket going further. I think that they're strong enough to go as far as they want to, but I think if anything, if for some reason the goals dry up for them, I don't think that'll be the case. Their defense might allow something and call, there could be an upset in the works down the road somewhere. I just don't know I don't think it's going to happen in group play.
Yeah, fair enough. Jay, you have a similar take on this, or do you think Brazil's got the goods?
No, the firepower is there. There's no doubt about it, and they won't be short on goals in group play when they advance out of group play. It's not going to be short on goals, but I'm going to agree with Kerry here in the sense that their defending is what's going to end up letting them down and will be the detriment to their detriment in this tournament. I just don't see them making a run into the Final Four, playing for the World Cup title here because of that defending. I mean, you have Eder Militao and a lot of guys that aren't, like Kerry said, they're either past their prime or not that they're not playing well, but Militao is really the only one that you would look at and say, if I had to, start a defense, like he's somebody that I would want to be on my side. So I think that'll end up being their downfall in this tournament, and I do think that's why they'll end up falling short again. Mike, you talked about the disappointment that the Brazilians have been met with in recent tournaments, and I feel like we're going to see the same thing.
So there's a couple of things that you mentioned there, Jay, that I want to kind of double click on. First, you mentioned that this team is not going to be hurting for goals scored. Tend to agree with that. So I want to take a look at the odds to win the Golden Boot. Right now, Neymar is sitting as the third favorite, the third shortest odds at plus 1,000. But you also mentioned that you don't see Brazil making a super deep run, and usually the Golden Boot winner is from a team that makes a pretty prolific run. So with that being kind of the foundation, Kerry, let's start with you. Do you like Neymar to lead his team in goals scored? And if so, do you like that bet at plus 1,000 odds?
This is kind of a tricky one because I do like the odds, but this is one of those teams where the goals can come from anywhere. They could, in one of these group stage games, they could put up a 5-0, result, and Neymar may only have one of those. And that's where, we've talked about some of these players like Messi and, where's the goal production going to come from elsewhere in that team? And, Harry Kane with England. I think with this one, with Neymar, I mean, he's absolutely capable, and I like the odds there. I wouldn't, necessarily bet against him, but they can score in bunches and everybody can. So how much do they need to lean on him? For, he might, in the group stage, he might play 60 minutes and they sub him off because they have a comfortable lead. So, yeah, I don't know. What do you think about that, Jay? How do you feel about Neymar and those odds?
I think Neymar can win the Golden Boot without Brazil actually making it to the end of this tournament. Sure. And I think that for me, that's you get through the group stage, and again, you mentioned already, Kerry, the tough matchups that are right around the corner as soon as you get out of this group. But in my mind, it's like you get Brazil versus Serbia on the first match day for this group, and Neymar could just as easy, if they get 5, you could see Neymar with a hat trick in 60 minutes and they sit him down, and then right away you're 3 goals in and you're sitting pretty in terms of the outlook for the Golden Boot. So I think that it's a decent, to put a little bit on it. I wouldn't put a ton of my bankroll on Neymar here, but I think it's worth a little bit of money because, again, he's somebody that even without Brazil making it to the round of 8, the round of, the Final Four, the championship match, that he is somebody that could win the Golden Boot without his squad even making it that far. So I think it's worth consideration.
Yeah, fair enough. So let's move on to another team here. We have the Swiss. Man, made it out of the group stage the last 2 World Cups. So, Kerry, I mean, these guys are looking strong in goal. On the defensive side, they look good. We talked about Brazil, and maybe that might be their downfall. But the Swiss have enough weapons to put the ball in the back of the net here.
Yeah, that's my concern with them. I mean, they're solid at the back. They're solid through the middle. I just don't know if they have the goal scoring output. Brielle Mbolo is a really good striker, but he's inconsistent. He's faced some injury issues at club play. I don't know if they can find some consistent goal scoring up front, then I think they're so solid everywhere else that they could make another run. I just don't know. Yeah, it's going to be tricky to see if they can get those goals.
Jay, as far as the goal scoring, do they have enough here, or do you think their defense can carry them through?
Well, I do think that it's possible for their defense to carry them through here. I think what we're going to see out of Switzerland, we're going to end up seeing some longer shots. Some of that buildup might not be there in the box, and I think what we'll see is their captain, Granit Xhaka, he's known for taking some longer, 20, 25-yard shots, and I think some teammates will follow suit in that regard. And their defense is good enough to, you hit one of those home, that their defense is good enough to hold it off and get you 3 points in any match. So that to me will be the key for Switzerland. Can they just hit one of those Golazo bangers just from deep and set the tone? And Xhaka is somebody that I'll have my eye on as an Arsenal supporter, as well as somebody that just appreciates how much that he's really improved and worked on his game over the past year or so, and sort of that. Because 2 years ago, I think if you asked me about Granit Xhaka and my confidence in him in a World Cup competition, it's not that high. But right now, he's playing at the top form of his career at the right time for Switzerland, and I look for him to be a difference maker for the Switzerland side.
Yeah, definitely a fun team to watch here with the Swiss. I want to move over to the Serbian team. This team feels like they're a little bit under the radar coming into the tournament, right? They swept the qualification run, including a pretty impressive win over Portugal on their way in, and now it seems like most people have them pretty clearly ranked third in this group. So, Kerry, I want to hear from you. I mean, what needs to happen for Serbia for the Eagles to fly high?
I think it's interesting because one of the first shows we did covering the World Cup, we had one of the viewers reach out and mention, "Hey, what do you think about Serbia? I think they're a little underrated going into this," and I think that is absolutely the case. I think what needs to happen for Serbia is if they have the talent up front to score the goals, if they can, I'm not necessarily counting on them to do this against Brazil, but they have enough talent up front to make Brazil sweat on the defensive side. Tadic has scored at club level. Luka Jovic is a guy that a Real Madrid player that's now playing in Italy with Fiorentina. Vlahovic is another guy that is with Juventus, and he bangs goals in. And then you have Mitrovic, who plays in the Premier League with Fulham. That just he's their national leading scorer and always scores goals in big moments. They're just a really solid team. Those are going to be about as much of the household names that you're going to hear from them. That's about as close as those names are going to get to household. But like, if they can score goals and they're clicking up front, I mean, I think, to me, they're the favorite to finish second in this group, and I think they could comfortably if it clicks for them. So, yeah, I think they're definitely flying under the radar a bit. And to quote our viewer, I think they are underrated coming into this tournament, and I like how they match up against the other teams in this group. I think is what I like about them.
They're a tough out, and they will be for as far as they go in this tournament. This is not just in this group stage, and I know we're going to get to sort of planting our flags later on, but I do think Switzerland is going to have to play for those longer shots. If those aren't hitting and they're not having any success up front, a team like Serbia will counterattack off of that, and they will get the ball up the pitch and they will make you pay. And that's why I feel like with Serbia's attack and what they bring to the table, our viewer from earlier in our group stages was spot on. Nobody wants to play this team. It's one of those teams that you look at in Serbia that you just say, if I could just avoid them. Not one of the biggest names, like Kerry, you were mentioning some of those names, and those are not really, unless you're really into the game, you don't know a lot of those names. Even the Premier League guys aren't the guys that they're showing on the clips on TV and the commercials and things like that. But this Serbian side is a team that nobody wants to play, and I do think that they're going to find a lot of success in this group.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about. I mean, they're ranked just outside of the top 20, and we've talked about teams so far in this, in these previews that, are kind of stumbling their way in that might have a bigger ranking, and that's where I think, yeah, they're not getting a lot of attention. I mean, they haven't had a lot of really, recent success. That's going to get, you look at the Swiss, like they've done it the last couple World Cups. Where you go, all right, they've kind of earned the respect, I think, and I think their ranking shows that. I mean, they were. They're a top 15 team and they've kind of proven it. They have names that play all over the world, but I think this is kind of where Serbia kind of, puts themselves on the stage a little bit. I think they're going to draw some attention, I think, after this tournament.
So we talked about the three teams that are getting the most publicity in this group, but let's get an underdog here, right? Let's talk about Cameroon. They're rounding out this group. Long shot to make it into the knockout round. Carrie, any chance here, or is this just too tough of a group?
I think it is I think it's a top-heavy group. Mike, I think you mentioned it earlier. I think it was, saying with the rankings just how, kind of top-heavy this group is. I do think there is a chance for Cameroon. They have players that can score. They do have an attacking threat. And I forget who it was that we discussed earlier in the series, but this seems like one of those opportunities where if they can just kind of ride out the storm and let like Serbia and Switzerland stumble, I think there's a pathway for them to finish second in this group, because I think they do have players that can do it.
Jay, do you have a similar take on this, or is it just too much in this group to overcome?
While it is top heavy, I think if Serbia does slip up somewhere, and I do think the Swiss are going to struggle to find a win in this group, this is the type of a situation where a team like Cameroon can just sort of come out of nowhere, because everything above them, or at least the other two teams sort of vying for that second spot, there's so much uncertainty that sure, they could pop up and do it. I don't think they will, but it's very possible with the group and the way that this is laid out.
Yeah, I think Cameroon, they need to be big Brazil fans in this group. They want, for them to have a chance, I think they need Brazil to run the table in this group, because that's just points that Serbia and Switzerland won't be able to pick up. So I think there's a chance. It's long odds, but I think it's they're in the fight.
I mean, look, for Brazil to walk away with nothing but wins in the group stage is not entirely unrealistic, right? So if that happens, it certainly keeps everything wide open for that second spot. I want to take a look at these first four games, and I want to get our bankrolls out. So, Carrie, I'll start with you. We've got two games on the 24th: Cameroon and Switzerland, Brazil and Serbia. Then on the 28th, Cameroon and Serbia, Brazil and Switzerland. So across those four games, win, lose, or draw, where are you placing your first bet for this group stage?
I was looking at these, and for this first, for these first two match, rounds of match games, I think I kind of like a draw Brazil-Serbia, I think opening game of the tournament for both teams. And I think while Brazil, is obviously a favorite, I wonder if they're not going to have the legs fully going to open up the tournament. That this might be one of those ones where they kind of, not treat it like a preseason or like a walkthrough or a friendly or something like that, but that I think Serbia's style of play will be ready. And I just don't know. They could catch Brazil off guard a little bit. And I think I don't know. I kind of feel like that one, there's a good chance that one could end up a draw.
You gotta like the plus 360, right?
I love those odds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Made a compelling case for Serbia when we were covering them earlier. So to get them at plus 360 for a draw, definitely a nice price. Jay, let's scratch that Brazil and Serbia game off the board. From the remaining three, where do you see a bet that's catching your eye?
I think for me, it's the the odds to get you the most money back on a win here, and I think that's Serbia getting a win over Cameroon. Like they're just going to be too much firepower, going to be too much for the Cameroon side. So Serbia at minus 125 to outright win that match. I think it's a smart play, especially if you do put a little bit of cash on that Serbia Brazil draw. That coming back in the next match day, and Serbia sort of gaining off of that momentum. With it, even if they don't beat Brazil, I don't think that is one where we look at. I don't know that that's the Neymar hat trick game, but I do think because Serbia is just going to play a good brand of football, but I do like Serbia just outright to beat Cameroon on the 28th.
I like it. So let's start to put a wrap on this group here. Let's start with Kerry. Kerry, man, like give me somebody that we're going to be talking about the most when this stage concludes.
Yeah, I think Neymar is going to get all the headlines. He's already the most discussed player in the group. I think if we're going to go besides Neymar, I think Vinicius Jr. for Brazil, the Real Madrid player, he's kind of on that boundary line of the next generation of superstars in there with players like Mbappe and the other big international stars. So I think he can really kind of reinforce that future superstar status. But I also think Mitrovic for Serbia. I think he's had a good season with Fulham and their return to the Premier League this year. He's a little banged up, but he should be good to go for the tournament. But I think for Serbia to make the kind of noise that I think that they can make, I think he'll be one that he'll pop up in those big moments when they need a goal, and he could be one that gets a little bit of the spotlight.
Jay, do you agree with that call, or is there someone else maybe on your radar that might stand out?
With the way that I feel like this group is going to play out, it's really hard to pick any of those other three or anybody but those three that Kerry sort of mentioned. I do think that we're going to see some tremendous goal scoring in this group. And I mean the quality of goals. Like any one of these sides can have somebody that scores one that we're talking about for the rest of the tournament. And so I hate to cop out there, but I do feel like that when we watch these matches and we see that golazo that's coming, whether it's Xhaka from 25 yards or, I like Mitrovic a lot, man. Like I like the type of player that he is. So I guess I'll stick with that. To pick a player, I'll go with Mitrovic, but it's just there's going to be some fantastic goals scored in this group, and that's who we'll be talking about.
Yeah, it feels like it is pretty wide open and that we're going to see a good amount of offense from Group G. So with that being the case, let's wrap this group up. Before I come to you, Kerry, I'm going to ask everyone that's checking in on YouTube, do your part, hit those like and subscribe buttons, but also get into those comments. Let us know of the 4 teams that we've covered, who do you like to advance out of the group stage from Group G? And Kerry, that's the exact same prompt that I have for you. Plant your flag. Which 2 are making their way out?
Yeah, I've got Brazil winning the group. Too big of favorites. They're just too much firepower. We'll see what happens in the knockout stages, but at least for here, they win the group. And I think Serbia gets the second spot. I think they get revenge over Switzerland for the 2018 stuff and the controversy there. But I think Serbia advances to the knockout rounds for the first time in quite a while.
All right. So, Jay, we've got Brazil and Serbia according to Kerry. You following suit, or do you have a different combination making their way out?
I can't differ from Kerry on this one. I do think that's how this pans out. I love the revenge factor for Serbia over Switzerland. Some of the things that, doing like the eagle gesture and things like that those things stick. And even though it's however many years later, right? I don't see Switzerland coming out ahead of Serbia in this group. Cameroon will give it a go. This is going to be a fun group to watch regardless, but I do also feel like it's Brazil at the top and then Serbia coming out in second place.
All right. So among those 2, who's making the deepest run?
I think I think Brazil makes the deepest run out of the two.
It's hard to
but
go
it's going to
against that,
be,
right? Like it's hard not to.
yeah. But the thing is, and it's just interesting because it's, as mentioned kind of at the top, the side of the bracket that you end up on for winning this group might be the more difficult side. So does Serbia, by finishing second, kind of end up in a better spot to where they could play, someone like Portugal or Uruguay, and then after that, we've talked about Belgium and how they've done in, making deep runs. Like it feels like there's almost a better pathway by finishing second in this group. But that being said, I do think Brazil makes a deeper run. I just don't know if they get past Argentina.
It's tough. I mean, regardless of where you come out in this group, and that's the beautiful thing about this tournament is, when we talk about like March Madness, the college basketball, right? When you get to the round of 16, we get to the Sweet 16. One of Mike's favorite things to say about college basketball is when you get to the Sweet 16, all bets are off.
Yep.
And I think it's with this tournament, it's once you get out of the group stage, honestly, like there's no one way to win in this tournament, and it never goes the way that we think it will. I do think Brazil has the firepower to make a little bit of a run here. But I would absolutely love to see Serbia make a run and just piss a bunch of people off and play. Like I said earlier, nobody wants to play this side. Nobody wants to go up against Serbia because if you beat Serbia, well, they're Serbia. You were supposed to beat them. And if you lose to Serbia, well, you lost to Serbia, So it's like nobody wants to go up against this side. I would love to see them make a run, but for me, it's Brazil as well.
All right, that puts a bow on Group G here. So let's slide on over, save a little bit of room here for Group H. So let's mark them down here. Portugal coming in, FIFA ranked 9th. Best World Cup finish was 3rd place in 1966. Current odds tied for 7th, plus 1,400. Next is going to be the 14th ranked Uruguay. Best World Cup finish. They were champions in 1930 and 1950. Current odds plus 4,000, which is 11th. South Korea, FIFA ranked 38th. Man, best World Cup finish, 4th in 2002. The current odds, pretty long here, plus 25,000, along with Ghana, who's plus 25,000 as well, ranked 61st. Best World Cup finish, the quarterfinals in 2010. So, Eric, what are your thoughts on kind of the overview here of this group?
Yeah, I mean, on paper, it seems like it might not be all that competitive, at least relative to the other 7 that we've covered here. So, Portugal, Uruguay are certainly sitting up top, but specifically for Portugal, Kerry, is this really their best opportunity to advance out of the group stage easily and kind of prime themselves for a deep run?
Man, if you would have asked me a few weeks ago, I would have said yes, that I think this is their best opportunity. I had them going pretty far in this tournament because of the way the bracket breaks for them. The Cristiano Ronaldo situation that's flared up over the last week or two for me has seemed to bring a little bit of disharmony, and it disrupts the kind of the preparation. All this week, as the Portuguese team has made their way to Qatar and they're meeting with the media, they're just getting swamped with questions about Cristiano Ronaldo. Every player on that team is facing questions about it. He misses training because he's got some stomach bug or something. It's just, I think the disruption there, they're still going to do well enough to get out of this group. Don't get me wrong. And they're still good enough to win this group. I just don't. Maybe this galvanizes them to where they do make that deep run, the circle the wagons mentality. But I don't know. This kind of feels like this is going to, when people look back at this, they're going to go, well, that was one of the best Portuguese teams in a long, long time. But things just, you could tell that things were about to go wrong heading into it. So yeah, yes, they're talented enough to make a deep run in this tournament. I just don't know if their heads are in the right place going into this.
I'm gonna agree with what you said in terms of the circle the wagons mentality. It is a mess right now with Ronaldo and his club at Manchester United, and how disrespected he feels in general with how that went. I think he has a point to prove, and I think that he's going to come out and play some of the best football that we've seen him play in a long, long time, in spite of all of that stuff happening. I think his teammates will rally around them, and I do think Portugal has a really, really nice opportunity here to make a run, and I think they will.
Fair enough. So that takes us to an interesting question here. The Golden Boot. Been talking about it throughout these previews, right? So Portugal's got two players with interesting odds here. So you've got Ronaldo plus 1,600, and then Rafael Leao at plus 8,000. Kerry, we taking a shot at either one of these guys?
I really like the Rafael Leao odds. Honestly, I think I do wonder about how much Ronaldo is going to get, how many minutes he's going to get. And Rafael Leao is one of those guys right now that you can't keep him off. You can't keep him off the pitch. He's in too good a form to take him off. So I do, and especially with everything going on with Ronaldo, is he going to be a super sub early on in this tournament where he comes in for the last 20 minutes if they need something? Those Leao odds are tempting though. I think that he might be my favorite on the Portuguese side for that.
Fair enough. Jay, what do you think, man? You like the plus 8,000 as well, or maybe playing it a little bit safer at plus 1,600 with Ronaldo?
It's great odds, right? If you're looking at some longer odds to put some money on, I love that. I'm not betting on Ronaldo to necessarily be the Golden Boot winner here, but I do think that this is almost one of those things where I see Ronaldo stepping up at the biggest moments, whether that is as a super sub,
right?
Whether that's Portugal falls down early and he does his magic and scores a banger to get them back even to shift the momentum. I think that's Ronaldo's place in this tournament. I actually like Núñez here at plus 2,800. He's gotten the most bets worldwide. At over 15% of the bets have gone in on him at plus 2,800, and I love those odds that you can get for him. It's just the goals are going to come for him, and I'm staying away from Ronaldo just in general with this because I don't know. Again, I'm just not buying into that he's going to be the guy that's going to score everything for Portugal. He's going to be in big spots. Darwin Núñez, for me, is the guy that, for his club, will be able to score those goals. And at plus 2,800, I really love those odds.
They say to follow the money. So 15% of the money out there on Núñez is a pretty big vote of confidence. I want to look over to the team from Uruguay. This is a group that has a ton of international experience. They're coming in having advanced out of the group stage in 3 consecutive World Cups. So, Kerry, want to know from you, is this team the clear kind of second favorite from this group, and are they primed to make it 4 straight and advance out of the stage?
I mean, for me, they're my favorite in this group. To me, I think they're the most well-rounded, most well-prepared team in this group right now. You mentioned Darwin Núñez, and he's what's interesting about that situation is Uruguay they relied on players like Edinson Cavani and Luis Suarez for so many years. Those players are still on this team, but they have a generation of players like Núñez coming right behind them, and the system stays the same. And they just, where Portugal, Ronaldo is a generational player, but there's no there's still a reliance upon him. And for me, I think that's more of a detriment to Portugal. And I think just the way that, I don't know, I think Uruguay's battle tested. They're, I don't know. They're my favorite in this group.
I have a little bit different take here. I think we saw the sort of road to qualification, and for me, it was not as smooth as I would like it to be for a side as talented, with as much talent at the top of their roster as Uruguay has. And I could see this being the team in this group that has the turmoil that we're not expecting to have, or to see, I should say. Obviously, the abilities there, the talents there, it's going to be tough. They're obviously a great side, and I just don't know if I'm as confident in them as Kerry is here in terms of being that clear cut number 2 in this group.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the good thing is Suarez won't be able, if you keep him off the pitch a little bit, he can't, bite and get in reds and get sent off that way. But no, I think that's a good point about their qualification. It was a bumpy road for them, and they were in danger of not qualifying for this tournament until they fired their manager, their longtime manager, hired a new one, and they got hot, and they've, seem to be on the right track heading in. So no, I think that's a legit concern. Which team are you going to get? Are you going to get the earlier team in qualification that didn't quite, seem to gel, or is this going to be the team that's hitting on all cylinders? And if they're hitting on all cylinders, then they would be up there with any of the other teams in this tournament as favorites.
Yeah, and Nunez, like, that's why that plus 2,800 is such an intriguing play, because if this side is firing off on all cylinders, he's probably one of those people that's leading the charge, and that's why I think that that's a bet that makes sense. I'm just not as confident that that's exactly what we're going to see in this group stage. Can that be something that they work through, and then they get out of this group stage? You play 3 matches, you sort of try to figure yourselves out and work all of that. Okay, that I could see them making a run, but there's just some uncertainty for me there that I'm not willing to just jump right in with both feet and say that this is the team that's going to make a deep run.
So we talked about a little bit of uncertainty, but it does feel like there are 2 tiers in this group, right? I mean, obviously, got Uruguay and Portugal, and then there's kind of the second tier that everybody sees, right? South Korea and Ghana. So I want to start with South Korea, Kerry. I mean, this is their 10th straight World Cup appearance. Who needs to step up for them to sneak out of this stage here?
I mean, they're really, really solid. Solid defensively, solid through the midfield. I think just Son Heung-min is what it comes down to for them. The Tottenham player that, I mean, is just prolific goal scorer. He's their captain. He's national hero. All those things, and he gets injured before the World Cup. And he's in the squad. He's traveling with them, but the health is an issue. And I think where this could get interesting is if he's healthy and he's able to put in quality minutes for them, then the pressure is really on either Portugal or Uruguay, and whichever one of the two, if they're, if the disharmony is attacking Portugal too much, South Korea has a chance to advance out of this group because they're good enough to. But when you take away their best player, and if he's getting a few minutes here and there and he's just not effective, I just don't know if they have enough to get out of the group stage.
Jay, do you like the South Koreans here to surprise, or do you feel like this is a 2-team race at the top?
That's the club in this group. That's the side that I feel like if there is some of that uncertain, if the Uruguay team is not at their best, then I think South Korea can definitely be a team to step up and sort of surprise people and come out of this group. Son's health, the 4 facial fractures in his eye socket. He's going to be wearing this badass mask. Like, it's like if he's playing, and that's a big if. For me, if he's out on the pitch, and it's not like how many World Cups do you get to play in? If he gets the green light, he's going to be out there. And I think he'll be effective, whether he's wearing a big mask or, like the LeBron all-black Zorro mask or whatever. It doesn't really make any difference to me. If Son Heung-min is out on the pitch, South Korea has a chance to win any match that they play. And so yeah, I think South Korea has, Ghana though. Ghana is that team, like, as you know, U.S. fans. U.S. fans are familiar with. Ghana is always a team that has seemed to give the United States trouble with their brand of football, with just how they play such solid, just pack it in defense, and they'll counter on you if you're not ready for that. And that to me is tricky here, because all of these teams in the right moment, if the right things happen, can get 3 points in one of these matches. And Ghana is, I didn't want to not talk about them here because they're very capable of, if nothing else, squeezing out a draw against one of these upper tier teams, pardon me, that they really don't have, if you look at roster to roster, man to man, that they don't have any business squeezing a point out of. But that's probably going to happen in this group. These two groups that we're talking about here, we're going to see some excitement. We're going to see some games that come right down to the end, talking like, injury time, corner kick, sort of set pieces and things like that can decide these matches. Ghana is another one of those teams, in spite of their FIFA ranking, nobody really wants to go up against this side. And that to me is going to be why they're somebody to watch. But if I have to pick, if Son is healthy, South Korea is going to make some waves in this group.
Yeah, I think Ghana, I mean, they're big game hunters at this point. I mean, knocking off Nigeria to qualify, a team that a lot of people were picking to be in this tournament. I think there's something to be said for the underdog mentality, and nobody is giving Ghana a chance. And, there's a reason people aren't giving them a chance. I mean, they're not the deepest team in this group. They've, they have struggled a bit. This isn't the Ghana team of previous years, but they just, I don't know. There's another revenge factor match in this group, and that's where we mentioned Luis Suarez with the volleyball spike against Ghana back in the 2010 World Cup. That's where they were the Cinderella story. They were that close to going to the semifinal, and I think I know that was 12 years ago. But I guarantee that has been talked about. As soon as this draw came out, if you might not get out of the group stage, but there's one game that you have to show up for and win if you're Ghana, and it's that one against Uruguay. And one win in this group could be enough to see you through, and that's where there's some interesting stuff at play with this one, and that's where it's similar to Group G. You look at it on its face and you look at the rankings and you say, oh well, all right, chalk, and it's not going to be that interesting. I think these last two groups that we've been discussing might be two of the more entertaining ones out of all of them. So I hope it plays out that way. It'll be fun.
Yeah, I mean, we all remember that magical run for the Black Stars in 2010. We'll see if they can recapture some of that here in 2022. I do want to take a look at the first 4 games for this group as well. Again, 2 on the 24th, 2 on the 28th. We open with Uruguay and South Korea, Portugal versus Ghana, and then we follow up with South Korea versus Ghana, Portugal versus Uruguay. So, Kerry, across those 4 opening games, is there a particular bet or a particular line that's catching your eye?
I like Uruguay to get the win over Portugal on November 28th. I don't know. I just feel like they're the more settled team out of the two right now, and they're as solid as any team in this tournament. And yeah, I think I like them to get the win there against the Portuguese.
Made a strong argument for this side for Uruguay. They're carrying plus 265 odds to come away with the win in that matchup. So Jay will take that game off the board. Of the 3 remaining, where are you placing your wager on this one?
I'm actually going to play a little bit against Kerry here, because I do think that when he mentioned earlier that the 3 points could be enough to get a team through this group, I think we start to see the cracks in Uruguay on the first match day I like South Korea to draw Uruguay in that first match and really set the tone for this group. Now, again, if Son's health is there, if he's not playing at all, I think they'll have a little bit more difficult time, hashing this out. Even if he's not scoring goals, his presence alone can alter the way that any team defends, especially the way that Uruguay will attack this South Korean. The South Korean will defend the South Korean attack, I should say. But if he's on the pitch, especially if he's on the pitch, I like South Korea to draw in that match and really set the tone for how I feel the rest of this group is going to play out.
Really like that call there, especially the plus 245 on those odds to draw there. So let's start to wrap up this group here. Kerry, we'll start with you. Let's go with an X factor from this group. Who are you going with?
I think it comes down to the Ronaldo situation with Portugal and where his head is at and where the team's head's at. And if they've got a few days here to kind of sort it out and get that circle the wagons mentality. And I think if they're able to do that and they've got their heads on straight, then I think that's going to be the X factor, because I think that, and also depending on Uruguay, I mean, that could be what opens the door for a South Korea or a Ghana to a glimmer of hope to be able to get out of this group.
I have a feeling that me and Kerry are going to go different ways when it comes time to picking who gets out of this group. But for me, it really is the health of Son Heung-min. Like, that is the X factor out of this entire group for me. If he's healthy, I've said it a few times already. If he's healthy, if he's on the pitch, even if he's playing 60, 70 minutes, he may not be able to give you a full 90. All things considered, 4 freaking broken bones in his eye socket. I mean, like, it is what it is. But
it's understandable if you can't, go full 90 minutes.
If you can't go a full 90, I would, be understanding of that. But if he's healthy, I think that shakes up this entire group. Healthy is relative. Healthy is relative. If he's healthy enough to be out there, then this shakes everything up.
And you mentioned the Zorro mask. I'm hoping my guy goes with more of the Bane vibe, but you teed it up perfectly, and I'm stoked to ask now. We will ask everyone checking in on YouTube to hit those like and subscribe buttons and let us know how you think this group will shake out when it's all said and done. But I'm pumped up because I think there's going to be some dissension in the ranks. So, Kerry, I'll start with you. Of the 4 teams that we covered, who's making it through from Group H?
I've got Uruguay winning the group, Portugal finishing second.
Okay. And Jay?
I have Portugal winning the group, but I've got South Korea being the second team to come out of Group H. I just feel like Son will be there, will be enough of a difference. I feel like that the dissension, all the stuff that's going on there, I feel like it's going to be South Korea to come out of this one in that second position here. Portugal is too much, by the way. Like, they will be too much. I do feel like Ronaldo will not be a distraction. I feel like they'll come together. We may see that early on, right? They've got Ghana, which is out of all the sides that they could play first in this group, it works out for them to get Ghana first and to sort of set that tone for themselves. And again, if they allow Ghana to control that pace, if they allow Ghana to just sort of camp it in and not let them do their, if they get out of their game plan, they could throw Portugal up. I don't see them doing that. I do see Portugal handling business there and setting the tone for themselves. Whatever the Ronaldo monkey, get it off their backs. But for me, it's South Korea coming out of this group in the second spot.
Yeah, I think what you're really saying there is that you've got a relatively high degree of confidence in Son's availability is the other way to put that.
Fair. That's a fair point. I think he's going to find any way that he can to be on the pitch. And again, even if it's 60 minutes, 60 minutes a match, he
Yeah, it
gets
could
a
be
little
enough.
bit healthier. It could be enough to make a difference, especially against, Ghana. And how I feel like that's going to go against Uruguay. You get a point there. You get 3 against Ghana. You're in a good spot. You're in a really good spot.
Absolutely. And that will do it for our group preview for GNH and for our group preview series heading into the World Cup.
Can't
Like we
believe
talked
it.
about off the top,
Let's go.
just a few days out. So the excitement is palpable. If you have not already, hit those like and subscribe buttons on YouTube, but also get over to drroto.com. Not only will you find all variety of our written work there, but you will find some of the most extensive breakdowns of international soccer that I have ever read, coming to you thanks to our very own Kerry McAllister. So get to drroto.com, get yourself subscribed, and let's get this bread.
Thanks for stopping by the office. Get your fantasy prescription by subscribing to the channel and checking out drroto.com. And until the next visit, be well and take care.